Good morning. Today on Spotlight, getting ready for the historic and first presidential debate between U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris, the Democrat, and former U.S. President Donald Trump, the Republican. What's at stake for both? Their respective political parties and the nation as a whole. As debate preparation counts down, what strategies are at work? We'll ask Aaron Call, the Lee H. Hess Director of Debate at the University of Michigan, and Lavonia Perryman, a Detroit-based political analyst and strategist. It's Sunday, September the 8th. I'm Chuck Stokes, and this is Spotlight. And welcome to Spotlight. Aaron Call, the award-winning national champ director of the University of Michigan debate team. Welcome back to Spotlight.
It's great to be with you. It never gets old.
All right. As we record this, you anticipate being in Philadelphia at the presidential debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. What in the world are you anticipating? No one has been in more debates than former President Trump.
Yeah, he definitely has the experience advantage. This will be his 7th presidential debate, and we saw him against Hillary Clinton and then 3 debates against Joe Biden, and he's a wild card. You know, you never know what you're gonna get.
You don't know which Donald Trump is going to show up.
No, and he's got the media entertainment background. He's the host of The Apprentice. He's very cognizant of the cameras and kind of how things are going to be anticipated, but then also can be very substantive, to going back to his accomplishments in the first term, how he wants to lead the country. So you're preparing for a lot of versions.
So as a director of debate, if you're preparing Vice President Kamala Harris, what do you say to her?
Yeah. Most important thing, do no damage and always keep your cool and your composure. I think that he's going to do everything he can to get under her skin, get her away from some of the policy issues, the joy, the vision for the future, and kind of bring her down into the muck in some controversial ad hominem attacks. And so she's got to just turn the cheek, focus on what she's there to do.
She has to stay above the fray, cannot be sucked into that.
Yes, pure presidential, that you've got the right temperament to lead the country for 4 years. She's relatively undefined. This is her first presidential debate, so she has this one opportunity to make a very favorable impression and stay the course.
If you're advising former President Trump, what do you say to him?
I think he did pretty well against President Biden in the June debate. Try to emulate that. He's more disciplined. Some of the rule changes, the cutting of the microphones, allows him to stick to some of the policy issues.
And he won that. He won that. That first little debate.
The president to not seek election was historic. But some of the major issues that voters are going to really pay attention to this time: immigration, inflation, the economy. He's got an advantage there, and so he should stick to there. Remind people what they liked of his first administration, and talk about how he's going to institute some of those policies to help everyday Americans with the issues that they've dealt with, especially inflation.
Director Call, you have been watching these debates in person since what was your very first presidential
2016.
debate? All right, so that's a lot up under your belt. And of course, you know debate like the back of your hand. In these type of high-profile television debates, not radio, this is television, full vision there. What's more important, the issues or the demeanor of the candidates? What does the average person pay closer attention to?
It's a combination of the two, but if I had to pick one, it's probably the ethos, the vibes. It's, can you see this person as president for the next 4 years? It's such an important position. Whether there's a 3 a.m. crisis that occurs, can they give speeches and press conferences to lead the country? Do you feel comfortable with this person in your living room for the next 4 years? And so having that, talking about your biography, your skill set for why you're prepared to lead the country, just making especially those few undecided, moderate, on the fence voters, comfortable and can envision you as president for the next 4 years.
The history-making aspect of this is that it's the first time a woman of color is going to be on stage one-on-one in a presidential debate. Hopefully this gnat won't be there too, that's flying around on set here. That, I would imagine, no matter how seasoned you are, no matter how confident you are, that's going to create probably some nervousness from Kamala Harris, or at least puts her, she knows she is under the microscope like never before.
Yeah, definitely. And we did see Hillary Clinton in the 2016 election and the debates against Trump, and she kind of acknowledged that and just the history-making issue of that particular dynamic and kind of embraced it. And I think that Kamala Harris is taking the opposite position, just that everyone knows what's at stake and the historical nature of this race, the important impact of it, but I don't think that she really focuses on it. And any time things are brought up of that nature, she just shrugs it aside. She may acknowledge it, but then pivots to things like, but the real important things are the issues, the economy, the policies that she has to help the middle class. And so she'd rather have it be a focus on the substance and her vision going forward, as opposed to the real historic nature, both of the election and this debate.
Is the gender aspect of this different than the debate that Hillary Clinton was a part of?
A little bit. We had 3 debates there. One of them was a town hall where he famously circled her around the stage. You're not going to have that this time. They'll be behind their podiums. But there was so much bad blood in that debate, just given the history of both Clintons, and it got really personal. Both Bill Clinton and some of the affairs and personal issues that he had, he brought that up on the debate stage, and she had to respond and accuse her of being an enabler. So they don't have that personal history, and it's not going to be as deep-seated. There's just the one debate. It's more formal. But that at least shows how hot button and kind of under the skin that you can occur in these debates. And they've said pretty negative things about each other in the campaign trail. We'll have to see if it makes its way onto the debate stage.
All right, we need to get to a quick little break here. We'll come right back. We'll talk about some of these additional rules that we haven't talked about yet that will spearhead this debate. We'll be right back with Aaron Call. Stay with us. And welcome back to Spotlight. All right, there will be no opening statements. President Trump will get the final closing statements. Does that give either one an advantage or disadvantage in this?
Yeah, as a debater, whether it be academic, political debate, you always want that final closing statement to make your closing argument. You get the last point, rebuttal. Your opponent can't say anything. And sometimes in these situations, you may sandbag something until the very end and bring up something because your opponent doesn't have the opportunity to respond to it. And we saw the same thing in the first debate.
And the mics will be muted, so it's not like you can jump in and somebody's going to hear you.
Correct, totally unvarnished. We saw in the very famous Obama-Romney debate where he waited till the very last part of the debate to make the point about his negative comment about the 47% of the country. And so you may want to take your best argument and do it at the very end because the opponent doesn't have the opportunity to rebut it.
In a debate of this high stakes nature, what are you telling the candidates that they need to be aiming for in terms of the audience? Because let's face it, the hardcore Republicans are going to probably stick with Donald Trump. The hardcore Democrats are going to stick with Kamala Harris. Is it that independent voter that they really should be focusing in on?
Definitely, but there's not very many of them, maybe 5% or so that are truly undecided. But
enough in these swing states that it could tip it one way or the other.
Swing states and in such close elections, both 2016, 2020, tens of thousands of votes in a handful of swing or battleground states determines it. So yes, if you could impact them. Generally, they're low information voters that don't tune in, but they will for a debate like this after Labor Day to see who they're going to vote for. You want to be positive, forward-looking vision, talk about your biography, your policies to help them, and they don't like the ad hominem attacks, the negative, because they think politics is too contentious anyways. So really try to be presidential above the fray, help you with those moderate and independent voters.
Aaron Call, for Vice President Harris, what are the key issues that she needs to drive home?
Yeah. And I think her economic plans, especially for the middle class, she's talked about price gouging, and then she also has some cleanup to do on some past issues she's taken that were a little more liberal on things like the environment, immigration, the border, and Green New Deal and things like that. When she ran for president in 2019, a little bit outside of the mainstream, and she's changed her position on a lot of those, but she has to explain why it's consistent with her values, and what exactly policy she would pursue if she were president. And so this is the first opportunity for her to do that, as she's a little bit more undefined than Trump.
Does she play to issues that are more important to women than men?
Yeah, there's definitely a big gender.
Or is that a potential downside, that you don't play to that because you're a woman?
You want to do both. I mean, there's a big gender gap in this election, but President Biden did a very good job he narrowed that gap with males, and so you want to do both. But in suburbs, on the issues of abortion, gun violence, we just saw what happened in Georgia. Those are things that could be very helpful, and in these suburbs of these swing states, the battlegrounds that you mentioned, that'll be very important and appealing to issues that are important to those voters there.
Conversely speaking, for former President Trump, what are the key issues that he needs to zero in on?
Yeah, he needs to remind people of what they liked about his first presidency, especially before COVID happened. The economy, the stock market, the deregulation, those things, the border, the lack of international conflict, didn't have Ukraine and the issues we had there in the Middle East. So take people back to that time that wasn't as chaotic and the things they liked, but not remind them about some of the chaos and the tweets and things. And so is presidential and showing good temperament, and then maybe he's learned a little bit since that time, would be helpful for those moderate and independent voters.
Does he run away from the controversial legal issues that he has had to deal with over these last 4 years, or does he lean into them and say, look, I know this is what's on your mind. I know as a former prosecutor, that's what you're going to talk about, so let's deal with it.
Yeah, I think it's baked in, and he definitely can't avoid it, but I think he'll do what he normally does, is just saying that it's a politicalization of the Department of Justice, and it's a witch hunt, and that they're out to get him, and that his numbers have only gone up, especially amongst Republican primary voters since then, and it's all fake. And so it's a lot of the tactics that he's used previously, I think, and we haven't seen it affect his numbers too much. And so while Kamala Harris is a former prosecutor and is going to do her best to prosecute that case against him, the legal issues just kind of are what they are, and if he's president, many of them will go away.
Do you anticipate a second debate? Because there have been debates over the debates.
I hope so. The Harris campaign said that they're open to it if this one goes well, he shows up, and even Grand Rapids, Michigan has proposed one of the sites, whether it be late September or October.
Michigan's always in the thick of it.
It has to be just a battleground, maybe the pivotal state again this year. So I hope so. Generally in presidential debates, we have 2 or 3. We had 2 last time, but we've had up to 4 with Kennedy and Nixon. So the more the merrier, and hopefully there's a successful vice presidential one and at least 1 or 2 more at the top of the ticket.
Final question, your debate students at the award-winning National Champion University of Michigan debate team, is that part of their assignment? They got to watch this debate as the school year begins?
Yeah, there'll be a lot of interest there, and you probably watch parties at the university, and this is going to get 60, 70, 80 million people watching it, one of the most anticipated debates of all time, and all ages, college students. One of the things Harris has been successful in is energizing younger voters. There's a lot of voting registration drives going on campuses, and so we'll have to see if the younger voters turn out on election day. They're not as reliable, but there's a big pivot towards that, and there's going to be a lot of interest of all ages for this debate.
All right. Aaron Call, the Lee H. Hess Director of Debate at the University of Michigan. Thanks so much. Good luck this year in the debate. See if you can retain that title along with the football national champ title. So you guys got a lot of stake up there in Ann Arbor.
Thank you. We'll do our best.
And coming up, I'll sit down with Livonia Perryman. She'll be talking about the history-making aspect of this debate. Stay with us. And joining me now on Spotlight is Livonia Perryman. She is a Detroit political strategist, analyst, all those good things. Welcome to Spotlight.
Truly my pleasure.
It's a pleasure having you. All right, no matter what happens Tuesday evening in Philadelphia, we can say with certainty, as long as both candidates show up, it's going to be a history-making debate. Never before in the long history of this country have we ever seen a woman of color standing up as a nominee of her political party in a presidential debate. That's a lot of pressure.
That's a lot of pressure on her opponent. That's a lot of pressure on her opponent because as a black woman, if she grew up like any black woman that I know or the folk who are watching and listening to us know, our mother said we had to always be better than the rest. We always had to be prepared better than the rest. Now, they never said black or white. The code word was, the phrase was better than the rest.
You knew.
Yeah.
You grew up in that atmosphere.
She is coming more than ready. She's coming prepared. She's excited. And she has anxiety around it. I mean, this is a historical move.
You
Right.
wouldn't be human if you didn't.
Absolutely not. I mean, even individuals such as Bruno Mars or anybody else, and even Biden, even Obama will tell you, even before they go on stage, there's something in their stomach that says, I'm getting ready to go see and present myself to several million people. So that comes with the territory. Surely this is major, it's historical. It's historical for the world to see a woman, one, an African-American woman, two, on the stage competing with someone that some folk would believe doesn't even need to be on a stage with someone of her caliber.
For former President Trump, who has been in more presidential debates than any president in past political history, so the experience factor comes into play. If you're advising Kamala Harris, the vice president, what are you saying to her? Are you saying, be careful, don't take this for granted, because this is not new to him?
It's not new to him, nor is it new to her. She understands, if I'm correct, and I will never say that I'm a personal friend of hers, but as an analyst and person who has worked with many candidates, local and national, I always say, come prepared. See, you have to come prepared, and then you got to know who you're dealing with. Study the opponent. Study the people who are in the room.
Which Donald Trump do you prepare for? Is that part of the challenge for those getting her ready for this debate, because he has shown so many different faces throughout the years that it's hard to predict how he's going to come in? This is not someone who is predictable in terms of they're the same way all the time.
There is no way to prepare for any one person that shows up with Donald Trump. There's just that, I mean, that's a reality. Mm-hmm. So she has more on her shoulders than any other person debating with any other person in the country, in the world. She has a lot of work to do. It's almost as if she needs to go off the road and go into a room and sit with individuals and have 4 or 5 people who pretend they're different Trumps.
Democrats are going to vote for Democrats, Republicans are going to vote for Republicans. Then there's that middle in there. Is that who these candidates need to be aiming for?
There have been African Americans and other people saying, even though they're Democrats or even though they're Republicans, I'm not really sure what I'm going to do, but I really wanted to find out where African Americans were and other people of color as it related to Vice President Harris. And they said that they have not heard, and they are concerned. They're not talking about voting for Trump, but they're concerned that she has not spoken the word reparation. She has not spoken how she is going to help HBCUs. She has not spoken the word about housing and the mortality rate.
And they don't feel like just because you are of color that I've got to vote for you.
Yes. Yeah. So that not only do you have to talk to the
undecided, you got to win my vote no matter what color I am. You got to win my vote regardless of if I'm a Democrat. I am a dyed-in-the-wood Democrat, and I will support the Democrat, but speak to my needs. And some are concerned, not many, but some are concerned. And when I was doing my research, I heard that she is not speaking directly to the people that really want to vote for her. And Donald Trump, former president, has spoken directly to African American men and says he has a kinship with them. So that's also something that he may play that evening.
And you say play. As I have a friend named Reverend Steve Tillett, don't fall for the okie doke. This is a performance. Politics is part of a performance this day. It's no longer you go on, I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat, I'm gonna give you the policies and I'm going to do a debate. And anything, and I'm gonna do my 10 points. And hopefully my 10 points will win over my party membership. No, it is a performance, it's TV. It is a showtime for both parties. And she has to remember, this is a showmanship policy debate.
So along those lines, Ms. Perriman, is the performance, the physical performance of these candidates more important than the policies and the issues that they talk about, or are the issues equally important?
It is significant that you show up as a person who understands what performance means. Her last interview with the other stations that she did, Dana Bass, people shared, CNN. They discussed with me, believe it or not, they discussed with me what she was wearing, how was her hair, was she low in terms of her presentation.
Because the television shows all of it.
So when you're preparing a person for a debate, you have to prepare the internal mechanisms in terms of how they feel, what they're up to. Show up as a vice president, dignified, but show up to perform and share her thoughts, her ideas, and her commitment to the country.
Okay, Lavonia, hold your point. I want to talk issues in just a second. We'll be back with more questions to Lavonia Perryman right after this. Of issues, what are the most important issues that each candidate needs to hit from their perspective to be a winner? If you're telling President Trump, and I know you're not going to be advising him, but if you were, what would you say? You got to hit this issue, and this issue, and you better hit it strong.
You have to hit the issue of justice, democracy, employment, housing, health care. Those are issues that impact everyone, regardless of race, creed, color, or religion. Housing, education, justice for all. Even the immigrants that he wants to send back, move, don't let them in. Justice. Justice speaks to how you treat people.
And Kamala Harris, conversely, what are the key issues she must drive home that evening?
She must drive home similar issues on the bigger scale as everyone talks about democracy. But see, for the folk who are listening and wondering, should I vote for her? They want to know about housing, economics. How am I going to pay my bills next month? How am I going to pay my bills on the day that you decide the election goes off? Cornflakes, are they going up? Cheerios, are they going down? That's what she has to speak to, but she has to speak to it in a very dignified, professional way, but she has to speak the language of the people.
Quick follow-up, and this is all we have time for.
Yes.
Does she stress issues that are key to women? Or is that something she sort of doesn't focus in on as much because of the fact that she is a woman standing on that stage, a woman of color?
Oh no, she should not just take women for granted. She must speak to women and speak to them on their needs, their desires, and their dreams for their family and the community. She must speak to them. Why? Because the majority of people who vote are women. And when women vote, we win.
Lavonia Perryman, thanks so much for coming in. Always a pleasure having you on Spotlight. And we'll wait and see what happens on Tuesday evening.
Truly my pleasure,
all right,
always.
We'll get you back. All right. And I'm Chuck Stokes. We'll be back next week with more newsmakers in the Spotlight. We hope you have a great week.